In this video, I'd like to share more about why I recently returned from a solo silent retreat and my experience during that said retreat. So, going into this previous, to give you a little bit of backstory, going into this new year, um, so towards the end of last year, I created this intention of going on 4 solo silent retreats here in this particular calendar year. And the reason being that I created that is because I noticed that each time I've been on one previously, that it's been a very beautiful and inner transformative experience for me. So what I like to do, just to give you a little bit of backstory, is share some of the other ones that I've actually been on and my takeaways as to what they were able to create in my life. So my first somewhat experience of going on in a sense, a retreat, though it wasn't silent, though it wasn't a solo, um, and specifically silent, was almost about, we're in 22, so that would have been 6 years ago. And I went on a yoga and meditation teacher training. And during that particular trip, or trip, which was almost about a month and a half, I had very limited access to cell phone, to technology. There was a lot of breathing exercises, a lot of journaling, a lot of body movement in these particular aspects in the mountains of Ecuador. And I had never experienced 2 things before. One, I had never been to South America, and 2, I had never been in an environment where I truly had slowed down. Um, Even as someone who had been meditating, and to date, I've had a consistent meditation practice for nearly 8 years. Um, that was a very enlightening period, an enlightening 6 weeks that I spent there. And my takeaway from that particular time, in that particular period, really came deeper into the emotional expression piece. I mean, I cried when I was out there. I went through some different ceremonies that really opened up different channels and different insights, not only within me, intellectual mind level, but also in my body, in a somatic level. And I had never really maybe created the full space to allow myself to truly like integrate that on such a deep and physiological level, that as I left, at the end of that experience, I came back even more vulnerable. I came back even more expressive as to communicating, as to putting myself out there, as to creating a blog, as to sharing certain areas, intimate areas within my life, certain vulnerabilities. And I know that that particular trip, that time there, had a pretty profound impact on me in that domain. The second time I experienced a solo, or actually a retreat, because the first one, as I mentioned, was not solo, was when I was living in Austin, and I went to this facility about an hour and a half outside of Austin. It's called Rainbow Hearth, if you want to look it up. And I was on this lake, and I brought no technology with me. I left my cell phone. I didn't bring my laptop. I just brought books, my journal, my yoga mat, and I was at this lake, in this cabin at this lake, and spent 4 days there in silence. And spent 4 days there writing, journaling, and just allowing myself to truly connect with nature. Go on brief hikes, to spend time in the sun, and to not have my, my cell phone kind of at my hip, looking at whether it be social media or YouTube or any of these kind of things. And that really was profound for me, in the sense of me truly not only fully like recognizing, because I already had the awareness, but stepping deeper into and acknowledging myself as a highly sensitive person. And the reason I bring that up is because while I was there in silence or in solitude, I read a couple of books. One of them being The Highly Sensitive Person, another one being The Highly Sensitive Person in Love. And I did different exercises and was kind of doing this. I don't know if you want to. I was going back really into different layers from when I was a kid up into that present moment, and just certain themes or characteristics that had showed up for me. And I was like, yeah, this is just clear as day. As I came back to center, as I came back to balance, I was able to recognize and honor that. And my biggest takeaway from that experience was fully honoring and being able to say, like, yeah, it's okay. Like, there's a beauty in this, a beauty in acknowledging and honoring it, rather than fighting and trying to, create this dissonance, in the body and the mind, just kind of relaxing into it. And at that point, I created a YouTube channel. That was something that had been in my heart and my mind, but there was a lot of resistance around moving forward on that. And after that particular solo retreat, it was clear as day to me to go ahead and move forward. Brandon, go ahead, move forward, create this YouTube channel, share, yourself over video. Because I had already created a blog and I had already felt, comfortable within that modality or that domain. But then there was this piece of interacting more so over video and sharing more deeply this story around high sensitivity and kind of how that appeared within my life on a body awareness level. So there was that piece. The third time I went to another lake. This is in Austin. This isn't the same place that I went to while I was on the retreat that I mentioned before, but this was another lake about an hour outside of Austin. And again, journal, books, disconnecting, and that was a very humbling experience for me that time, because there were certain things that were really being brought to the surface within my intimate relationship. And as much as I believe myself and my beautiful partner were attempting to create harmony, there was just certain aspects that I knew, and I believe, obviously maybe she knew as well, that were not working. And while I was on that particular retreat, it became clear as day to me. Okay, it's time to do couples therapy. It's time to be able to access more of a deeper understanding and ability to communicate and understand each other better. Because this was actually also during the COVID time. This was in the year 2020, and I went from having a lot of space throughout the day, being at home, working from home, to both people really being in the same space and energy field more frequently, and there being more noise and just different aspects that I wasn't accustomed to, had never really been accustomed to, and resistance and certain aspects came up during that period that really put a microscope on the communication level for me. And even though I recognize that, I'm always attempting to analyze or to experience different aspects of growth and communication, that particular solo retreat, it really flashed that light bulb on, okay, let's get a third party, you know, source in here to assist and to support and to help. And at that point, we went through couples therapy, and we actually went through, if you want to look it up, imago therapy. You know, for anyone who's watching this who may not have some familiarity with, um, it's called imago therapy, and it really did a great job in illuminating for both of us maybe some of the differences around upbringing and patterns and having this deep awareness on a kind of on a cultural level, um, and from those differences also having a toolkit, having the technology to be able to better understand and communicate with one another. So there was that piece. Fast forward earlier this year in January, which it's almost about 5.5 months from the time of filming this. Um, I came up with the awareness, and I did this while I was in Costa Rica. So, um, which I guess isn't that important, but I had this awareness um, in January. A lot of things were coming up for me. One was coming up for my finances in terms of being able to do a better job of tracking every single dollar that I spend. You know, um, I can go into more details about that, but that was very important to me because as a coach, as a entrepreneur, who prior to going into coaching, I worked for almost 10 years in the corporate arena. You go from receiving, you know, paychecks every 2 weeks plus commission to kind of having that on a mental level, having that certain sense of, okay, I know I have this coming in every single month. It's more consistent, and then plus the commission. To as an entrepreneur, you're essentially, you know, it's a completely different ball game. You know, you don't necessarily, in my experience, you know, the amount of money you have from one month to the next could be completely different. And I knew that I could do a better job of budgeting and of having that deep awareness of, okay, let's track every single dollar spent so that I can know with exquisite detail where every single dollar I spend is going to, and getting into the pattern, into the behavior of doing this on a consistent basis. So there was that. Spanish. I live in Costa Rica. I love the country here. Um, Over the years, whether it's in university or when I spend time in Ecuador, I've practiced Spanish. It's kind of been this dance of, you know, a few weeks here or a couple, you know, months here, and then maybe I would fizzle out a little bit. And I noticed in a big area for inner improvement within myself was to um, was to speak was to practice the language more consistently on a daily basis. So I made this goal and this commitment of every day in the year 2022, I will study Spanish for a minimum of 15 minutes per day to continue to build on my ability and my proficiency in speaking the language and writing the language. Um, and lastly, I had this awareness. You know, one of the things that I recognize that's been really useful for me on my journey is tuning into the body, having this deep awareness of the body from a sense of what are hell yeses, what are pauses, and what are clear no's. And what I mean by what are hell yeses is opportunities, or whenever you're presented with something or um, you just feel this rush of energy, this sense of excitement around a particular project or a particular um, opportunity to create something. Pauses or I'm not sure, maybe I need some more information. And no's are just clear. There's a contraction, there's a shutting down. It's like, no, this is a clear no for me. And what came up for me while I was in silence, again, earlier this year, this was 5 months ago, um, was that a hell yes for me was spending more of my time and energy towards one on one coaching. And what was showing up for me as a no was men's groups, which for 2 years straight I had led men's groups virtually. And what I experienced from that was this recognition of, am I doing something because I've done it? I've done it for 2 years. I've gone through men's groups. I believe in the premise. I believe in putting forth, you know, a presence that can help, other men drop into a state of stillness and a state of being able to pull out, you know, their highest potential. Absolutely. It's very important to me. However, in the group dynamic, I noticed that I was like, man, this, there's presently no energy for me around that. There's not a sense of a desire to continue along that path. And that was a bit humbling for me to lock eyes into and to look at truthfully, because um, sometimes in my experience, we can, you can create this vision of like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do, or this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is exactly what's giving me energy and it's kind of leading me on this path. And that's beautiful to have that clarity and to follow those, those nuggets, those guides, those compasses. And at the same time, maybe it's meant for us to follow a certain path for a particular period of time. You know, maybe along that path, we're able to figure out and see more clearly, like, okay, this was supposed to be my journey for 2 or 3 years doing X, Y, and Z. This was supposed to be the aspect that kind of led me into the next, transition or next transformation within my life. So those were the three aspects: finances, letting go of the men's groups to focus more one on one, which is what I love, and also the Spanish. Being able to continue to cultivate fluency in the language. And then most recently, just a few days ago from the time of filming this, um, again, spending another 4 days in solo, in silence, journaling, reading 2 different 300 plus page books. Um, I was able to reset my mind and body, which I haven't really mentioned that, but it's I found it to be a beautiful reset of the mind and the body on a um, just on a holistic level. And what I mean by that is, you know, again, even as you meditate, I'm someone who again has meditated for almost 8 years on a daily basis. You eat well, you eat healthy, you do um, body movement, you know, some kind of form of movement, whether it's however that shows up for you. Maybe even something like breath work. You do these things, and what these aspects can create is creates more openness and more of a foundation to be in more alignment and to see different aspects within oneself that um, may either serve, and it says, hey, keep on going down this path, or seeing aspects that may no longer serve and need to be destroyed. So my biggest takeaway from this last one, again, no technology, silence, out in nature. This one was along the beach. sunshine, yoga, just such a just decompressing experience. Um, was around my own personal gift and even deeper integration in that. And my own personal gift is the mind to body connection. And what I mean by that is being a teacher, an embodied teacher of how to tap deeper into the beautiful connection between the mind to body. Because we all have this inner wisdom, we all have this intelligence, this intuition, this compass. It's all internal. We don't need something or someone outside of us, as this is all inside of us. The days of gurus and the days of, hey, follow me, I have all the answers, those days I believe are long gone. We live in a world where empowerment, authenticity, utilizing one's gifts and being able to do work in which one loves, being able to communicate in which builds rather than destroys. These are aspects now more than ever that are very prevalent, I think, in the ecosphere. And I'm not going to go into details around, the ultimate kind of very big picture story, but I've experienced so much within thine life, um, that has really brought me back always to the mind and body. And I've been someone who's been familiar with mindfulness for over 25 years before there was any buzzwords and before there was any this media, this explosion and this awareness, because of almost a near death experience I had nearly 26 years ago, which brought me consistently into my body in terms of breath, in terms of presence, in terms of needing to regulate my nervous system over and over and over again for survival reasons. And then recognizing from a very young age the importance of always coming back to center and coming back to the breath and slowing down. And then as the years have gone along, another big aspect that I'm very much connected and centered with is conscious communication. And what I mean by that is being able to have a challenging conversation with a sense of presence, with a sense of honoring one's authentic truth, and with the sense of taking personal responsibility for one's emotional experience, for their emotions, for all these different aspects that may come up. And being able to do so, when I mention the word consciously, being able to do so from a place of sharing without placing blame on the other person, sharing from a place of vulnerability, and this is what's present for me, this is what's coming up inside of me, and I want to share this with you so that maybe you can better understand me. I would love to hear your perception so that maybe I can better understand you, and then maybe with us two listening and understanding one another, we can connect. So to put a button on top of all of this, if you've never experienced a time in solitude, you know, a, as I mentioned before, most of mine have been 4 days. That's what I find works for me. Um, but if you've never tried it before, I cannot highly recommend it enough to experience it, to experience what it feels like to, not have your laptop or your phone or social media on for, try for 48 hours for 2 days, you know, set a timer, say, hey, from on this upcoming weekend, on this weekend, on this date or this calendar, I'm going to turn off all technology and just be, and allow that space of being to create all the intelligence, the insights, the guidance, the answers that ultimately, again, reside deep inside of you. but may not have the opportunity to be seen through the essence of just going, through the essence of having, something that we're taking in on a stimulation level 24/7 or however many hours in the day. Um, yeah, I invite you, if this is speaking to you and you're like, yeah, this is something I've never done, or I want to try this, or maybe you've done it before and maybe it's been some time and you're like, yeah, I think this could be good for me. Um, I would say prioritize it, you know, move into it, move into the aspect of choosing yourself and saying, you know what, I'm going to prioritize this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to experiment with this with no attachment to any kind of outcome. And from that place, you know, I I believe and I hope you're able to experience some of the nuggets of wisdom, some of the transformation, some of the answers in which you may be looking for that again are right there inside of you.